But yeah, Malcolm's family was already heavily entrenched into the nation when he was locked up. And again, he was already primed because they were already accustomed to the Garveyite narrative and the Garveyite commentary. So they knew. So now I'm going to start reading things to you guys and breaking these points down. So I talked about Filbert wrote Malcolm. Maybe I didn't. Malcolm's brother Filbert wrote him in 48 that he discovered the natural religion of the black man. That's what he said. Well, let me go back. Let me go back. So this is what it says of the Littles trying to persuade or let Malcolm know what they were into. Not too long after Malcolm's imprisonment, his brother Wilford joined the Nation of Islam. I came into the Muslim movement in 1947. Wilford said, and started bringing my brothers and sisters in. We already had been indoctrinated with Marcus Garvey's philosophy, so that was just a good place for us. They didn't have to convince us we were black and should be proud or anything like that. We had learned that from our Garveyite parents. Soon, Reginald, Filbert, Hilda, and Wesley joined their older brother in the Nation of Islam. The little siblings didn't just join the nation, they became some of its most dedicated members and effective proselytizers, especially Wilford. With the support of his siblings and his wife, Ruth, he set up temples in Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. Wilford also became head of Temple One in Detroit. Now that's significant because, excuse me, that's significant because when Malcolm gets out of jail, when he's paroled. He's not paroled to Boston. He's not paroled to Harlem. He's paroled to Detroit to live with his brother. So, so yeah. But did you hear that? You know, not only were they primed through the Garveyite movement, they were a group of proselytizers. They were a group of brothers and sisters that knew the proper handling of people. They were a group of brothers and sisters who didn't mind going out fishing for their people. They were a group of brothers and sisters who loved to engage and relate. These are all things that Malcolm was master at, right? And we say nothing happens in a vacuum. Now we're learning that Malcolm didn't just appear out of nowhere. He wasn't a phenomena that just was uh, all of a sudden showed up on the scene. And he got to the scene ready. This was always my personal perspective on Malcolm and how he helped the nation and how the nation helped him. Malcolm X was to the Nation of Islam what Michael Jackson was to Motown, what little Michael Jackson was to Motown. He was already polished, he was already primed, he already knew how to perform, how to be great. Barry Gordy merely gave him a platform to explode, and it was a mutual benefit to both. It was a synergy that was unmatched, right? Michael was already the man when he got to Motown. Malcolm was already the man. He already had a mind to love his people. He already had a mind to continue with the Garveyite ideology. He already had a mind to raise black people from a dead level. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave him a platform. Go to Mosque 1, go to Mosque 2, go to Mosque 12, go to Mosque 25. Spread this word. I need you to proselytize it. I need you to be an effective evangelist for my words. I need you to be a I need you to be a person who's going to bring people in. And Malcolm did just that. But I just wanted to, I thought it was important that people understand that Malcolm came from a long lineage of activists, not only his parents, but his brothers and sisters. And so that kind of, it didn't kind of, it did only build on to his divinity. But what else? What else? What else? Trying to give y'all some relevant information. Like I said, this is just part one. We'll be going back. So Malcolm's family was a little bit different from other black people. And it says this. There's a reason why little family members could be somewhat bolder in their dealings with whites than most of their neighbors. That was their freedom from total economic dependence on white exploiters. Unlike most of their neighbors in turn of the century rural Georgia, the Littles weren't sharecroppers. In sharecropping, black farmers and white landlords contracted to share equally in the division of crops and profits. In reality, sharecropping is practiced in Georgia and the other southern states in the early 1900s was a short step up from enslavement. According to Professor Cruz, black farmers were seldom given itemized accountings, were seldom allowed to know the price at which the crops they raised were sold by the landlords, were forced to accept the landlord's figures for supplies received, and dared not question the honesty of the accounting. Thus, black farmers usually found themselves deeper and deeper in debt every year, regardless of how few supplies they used or how high the price of cotton or corn. I've always said that sharecropping was the basis or the blueprint for the music industry. You have an artist who does 90% of the labor, but you also have a record label who gives 90%, if not 100% of the resources. So they give you these resources on loan. And how much you use is never as much. I mean, it's always more. It's always more than how much you bring in, right? So in the record industry, they'll give you an advance. You have to pay that advance back. Oftentimes, unless you're a special act, you don't always have the money to cover those expenses. And we've seen it with different artists, with different acts over the years. But sharecropping kind of function in the same way.